myself and my roommates are a little foray into zero waste living for our Lent practice this past Lent, and some of the things that we've learned. And so one of the first thing that we learned in kind of like moving towards a zero waste lifestyle is that, first of all, it really helps if you have other people being in on this journey with you, because it's actually very inconvenient, and it can kind of be painful to not be able to live the way that you would prefer to live or that you're not used to. And so just to be able to have other people kind of to call up and say, hey, I had a really hard time today, and to hear on the other end of the line, or to hear in person, like, well, let's try again tomorrow, even when we fail. And that's something to kind of look forward to, the reality of failure and not being able to do this perfectly. So community is really important. The second point was, just kind of like having an end date in sight, and really submitting yourself to a timed discipline, because it's so counter one's habits that it's really easy to want to give up. And so really kind of sticking to a set time set aside to practice if it's your first time, that's super helpful. And then revisiting at the end, how did that go? And then what are some things that we can just really incorporate into our everyday lives now that we've built up that muscle to reduce waste? And then thirdly, it's to embrace the awkwardness of having conversations with like your butcher and your grocer around, like, can I buy this without the plastic? And just kind of initiating those conversations. And one example is my roommate Wendy. She really craved tofu. We hadn't eaten any culturally relevant food for a while, and so she went with her own Tupperware to the woman who was selling the tofu and asked if it would be possible to set aside some tofu in her Tupperware, and then she had to go back the next day to pick it up. And it's just very inconvenient. It's kind of awkward, but if we're willing to say no to awkwardness, no to fear, then we can really work towards more a just lifestyle of justice. And so, as with all things, everything is difficult before they are easy, and justice is not convenient. It never was, and it never will be, but we have to practice it, and God is calling us to practice it in community. So I'd love for you to hear from them yourselves, and be inspired as they inspire me every day.
Hi, my name is Esther. I'm also one of Ricky's roommates, and I also work for Serve Partners as well. I guess part of the more zero waste practice we did during Lent was a new experience for me, especially trying to change the way I consume different things. And for one of the key things that came out of that was, the amount of work that it does take to be able to schedule around where I buy food, like things in bulk and things to bring. So for example, like bringing, plastic bags, reusable bags, and perhaps also containers. And so planning ahead to have those things available so I can go and purchase items, and even like organizing where I go buy certain things in bulk, or certain stores that would have plastic free or no waste. So I always had to make a list of like, oh, I need to go here, and plan my time to go this place, whatever. So it does take more work, and I think that just really points to the fact that really we live lives of convenience, and we're set on an economy where we produce a lot of waste at the cost of like our creation and things around us for the common good. And I think that was even part of Lent, my own practice of Lent. I've had to question a lot and be able to say, challenge certain systems in place, or challenge certain beliefs that can be challenged. I can't say this is the way it is because that's the way it is, but I think that's also, it comes from a place of complacency and not actually believing that God can bring hope and change into those things, and being people who are as God's people to bring about this change, to bring a kingdom of shalom where everything is in right relationship with each other and creation. And so doing the more zero waste practice for Lent was a good experience, and there's aspects of this that I want to continue for the rest of my life.
Hey, I'm Caitlin. I'm one of Ricky's roommates. And as we tried this zero waste experiment, something that I was thinking about is how what we consume affects our bodies and the earth and the environment and the whole picture of these effects. So one of the areas I focused on is cosmetics and how all of the cosmetics I use typically come in packaging. So for the month that we tried the zero waste experiment, I tried to use no packaging cosmetic, which mostly meant I had to make my own stuff. So I'll show you a bit of what I did. I had to take makeup and hair product and put those to the back of my shelf and just not use them for an entire month. And instead I used things like coconut oil based moisturizers and body scrubs and deodorant. And for in the shower I would use, this is just baking soda and water for shampoo, and apple cider vinegar and water for conditioner. And that's just one easy step I made to lighten the impact that I make on the environment, and it's also better for your body. You should be able to put whatever you put on your skin, you should be able to eat also. So that's just one little step I made towards that.
Hi, my name is Wendy, and I also work for Serve Partners, and I also live with Ricky. And another consideration for the environment that I've been thinking about for a while now is clothing. So the clothing industry is actually the second most polluting industry in the whole world after oil, and who would have known, right? So part of me wanting to work against that, as well as the oppression behind the global fashion industry, is by making clothes that I can wear, and hopefully in making my own things, cutting down the environmental costs of production or shipping or packaging. But there are also many ways to reduce waste with thinking about clothing. So do we always need new clothes? Where do we buy our clothes? Can we wear secondhand, thrifting, clothing swaps? So can't talk too much about it, but I would encourage you to think about clothing as a way of eliminating waste in your lifestyle.